I'm not sure I could do that. Things don't work on the right side. It's supposed to do.
Okay, call the July 8th special meeting to order. Would you stand for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Town clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Anowen. Here. Councilwoman Hagen Depew.
Here.
Councilman Hewitt.
Here.
Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Supervisor Baden.
Here. First, thank you to the public. You're our first guest. Last meeting, we had, what, 3, I think, too. So thank you. We appreciate you coming. First resolution, and this is what we talked about for the economic development from the Ulster County. They got me the proper resolution on Friday. They had sent me the one that was intended for the county legislature, and they corrected it. So this is the recommended resolution. Town of Rochester Town Board approves and endorses Ulster County in its application to New York State Homes and Community Renewal for funding under the New York State Main Streets Program. Whereas Ulster County desires to apply for $500,000 in financial assistance through the 2021 consolidated funding application under the New York State Office of Homes and Community Renewal. Whereas the application proposes funding to assist property owners to complete building renovations. Whereas the proposed funding will contribute to ongoing community revitalization efforts. Whereas the grant application requires that the applicant obtain the approval endorsement of the governing body of the municipality in which the project will be located. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Rochester approves and endorses the 2021 CFA for New York State Office of Homes and Community Renewal, New York Main Street Program Assistance, prepared and to be submitted by Ulster County upon adoption of Resolution 304, 2021 by the Ulster County Legislature. Do I have a motion? Okay, Councilman Hewitt, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman now. Questions, discussion.
Who is this grant?
So
going?
this is for the revitalization of the granary project.
Is that the only project that's involved?
Yes, they are the ones applying. The Office of Economic Development in the county is assisting them in the process of the application. Aaron can probably maybe speak a little to this because I know you guys have approved for grant funding for your business in the past. It may not be the same program, but
Right.
it's similar program.
This one is more, it's like available, anyone in the community can ask, and then they put it through.
Right.
Now, this is just for the town of Rochester, this 500,000, or for the whole?
It's not
county?
for us, it's for the project itself. The applicant applies for it based on their project. We are required, and the county is the one doing the application. Because it's in our town, they're required to get an endorsement from us. There's no obligation, there is no work that needs to be put in by us. It's simply because it's a municipal consolidated Main Street program. Any individual, any business, any not-for-profit, any municipality can apply for these grants.
When you say the granary, are you speaking specifically about Henry Rich?
He's one of the co-owners. I don't know the name. The county is calling it the Granary Project. There's a number of owners, and it's an LLC. There's a number of owners. I know he is one of them. I believe there's 4 principal owners who are involved in that project.
Right, so this is one amount, one person, 500,000.
Not one person, one
One
project.
group,
One, yeah,
project.
yep.
Okay, so is there an expiration date on this grant?
I don't know any of that information because it's not involving us. We're just endorsing the filing of the grant.
But then does that in turn have us endorsing the project.
No, we are endorsing the application for the grant. It's an application. They may get it, they may not get it.
Criteria, probably 20 criteria they have to file, and one is municipal approval. If this money can be spent.
Right. The project will still go through planning board review. As you know, they did approach us about an EEO. They have not filed an application yet at this point. It will still go through all that review process. This is just funding that they are seeking to help them do the project. And it's due the end of July, which is why it is a timely. It's the state, instead of having grant applications due all over the map like they used to, they've now done this consolidated funding application. And because you can do the main part of it and apply for multiple grants and not have to repeat the same information over and over again, this is one of the options to them. And the county economic development, who spoke with the people who are applying, reached out to me and said, as a requirement of a municipal endorsement, are you willing to do this? So.
My other question is, was this process for this grant or anything about this grant publicized anywhere so other people could pick it up?
The state publicizes it all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on their, there's like a main, so basically they have a program for vacant and underutilized properties. So in order to even be considered, you have to like qualify for that.
There's
And
about
There's like
100,
homeowner and business.
there's about 150-page booklet that the state puts out when these grant announcements are put out there.
And they do trainings every month, so everyone's on the same page.
Okay, so should we, as a board, be notifying the public that these grants are available?
No, there's
Why?
so much notification out there already.
I
think we
just
should
meant
all move on.
If
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah.
vote on one, and the one is coming.
Well, we're
before us,
voting on the one that
that's
we're
coming
being
before
requested
us, I
to.
know, but should we have?
Last year, Arrowwood, or
I
2 years
remember.
ago, 2 years
And
ago, I believe,
Aaron's
Arrowwood. Well, Aaron's was a
was
different grant.
several years
Yeah,
Yeah.
ours, I don't think we had to do.
Theirs was not part of the state consolidated
But it
funding.
was
I
state-
gave a bad
Yeah,
example.
It was state funding,
Yeah.
but it was not.
Arrowwood received, the economic development arm of the county reaches out to businesses on a regular basis. They go to the Chamber of Commerce, they
Yeah, that's-
they, you know, should we put it out there? Probably, but I'll be honest, it's, you know, I was probably not as aware of, it comes out every year. I usually look through it for things that we could potentially apply for. And-
Although I would love to discuss it more. There's a lot of information on the CFA website, and I'd love to get home in a reasonable hour tonight.
Yeah.
There's tons of information about CFA.
Okay, that's fine, but why I'm asking is because, again, we have an LLC applying for a grant
Yes,
that's going to help a corporation,
corporations keep our road moving.
individual notwithstanding.
Well, it's for, the LLC is for principal owners. They are identified as to who they are within that LLC. It's not a hidden, a shell corporation. They have formed the LLC to protect their personal assets with this project. As we discussed at length with the short-term rentals of why people form an LLC. It's still those four people and their funding. So
Okay, so
I had no idea they were going to apply for this until last Tuesday when the county economic development commissioner, director, I apologize, I'm not sure which title is his, gave me a phone call and said, we're putting forward a resolution to the legislature which is what's noted in here. And we need a endorsement. That's all we're doing is giving an endorsement of the grant application. We're not even endorsing the project. We're endorsing them to file the grant application.
and where did we say this 500,000 came from originally?
It's the Consolidated Funding Act
Consolidated Funding Program,
New
of
York
the
State.
state.
New York State, which is,
So they're applying for a grant and part of the grant application through because the county legislature is the one sending the grant applications in. They're asking for a resolution from us
correct.
that we are okay with our main, basically, it's a Main Street revitalization
Mhm.
fund.
And that's what they're proposing. They're proposing, they purchased that property. They've come to the planning board and merged the lots into one parcel to make their process easier. They are proposing, and I use that word very, very carefully because they've had discussions with me about allowing us an easement over the section that was the original rail trail, which would extend our
Whatever
rail trail.
happened to the whole road that went through there? There used to be a whole.
Ma'am, it's not public comment, excuse me.
Well, then I'll ask the question. What happened to the road that went through there?
I have no idea what happened to the road that went through there. It's private property.
Well, it didn't used to be.
Well, at one point in time, when Mr. Anderson owned that, there would have been various easements through there. They do.
And they may or may not,
exist.
they may or may not exist. I mean, we will be reviewing all that if that comes to fruition. I only bring that because part of what this project entails is a benefit to the town. But they have not submitted an application yet, so I don't want to speak for the owners, is
No,
what
I
I'm trying to
understand
say.
that. So they're looking for a grant.
They're looking for the grant
project that
because,
has a name given by the county. But they haven't applied to the town for anything yet.
yes, they did. I just
They
said,
said they have
they
done some
consolidated the
applying.
3 properties.
Right,
Their attorney has informed me that they are in the process. They took all the application materials. They are in the process of answering those, and they are going to give us a complete application when they have all the requirements of that filled out. When they get all their surveys done, they're gathering information.
is this going through the planning board?
They're applying for the EEO. It will go through both boards.
But it's not prepared yet.
It is not.
That was my question.
It is not.
It is not prepared yet.
This is an application for possible funding. They may be denied. But if we don't pass this resolution, it doesn't even get off the ground.
I understand that. And I understand, Chris, I understand about grants, believe me.
Okay.
But where I'm coming from here is he gets this grant money, and what if he can't fulfill the project?
Then he has to pay it back. There's requirements that follow the grant. You have to do what you say you're gonna
You know
do.
that. I'm asking these questions for the public, not
Okay.
because I don't know the answers, but because I want to know. And the
That's nice.
public needs to know, and we never ask these questions publicly.
I would
Don't
disagree
say I'm
with that.
grandstanding, because I'm asking questions.
I would disagree
Um,
that it's our job to educate the public about grants, money, business. Our job
It's
is to
our
work
job
on
to do
town
whatever the
business.
town needs us to do, Chris, whether it's education, ask questions, whatever. Just because you understand the process, you do, maybe you do, maybe you do. I'm willing to say I understand some of it.
Mhm.
And when I sit here and ask questions, I'm asking so everybody knows.
Okay.
Well, can I just, the information is all really publicly accessible. We talked about this last Thursday.
know.
And no, but I'd like to. You could have called me and said, I have more questions about this.
I don't want to talk to you. I want it out in the public so the public.
But
can hear.
I could have directed you to where the information
No,
is.
I don't want to read it. I want to hear it. I
How
can
long?
read.
How long? Could we have time limits on the agenda? Because we could discuss everything.
If
Do
you-
we?
hours.
When I asked for a time limit, I got chewed out.
If you,
have
And he said that night that
both
we
of you,
would
please,
stay here till midnight if we had to.
If
Chris,
you-
I'm
if
sorry.
you-
If you're in a hurry, go. I wasn't
Not in a
able to be.
hurry.
in a
if you
hurry.
would like, I'll bring it up on the website. I'll put it out,
This is what happens every time I start asking specific questions
And
on
I'm-
something. And I'm never supposed to answer back. And
We-
then I get called combative because I simply want the public to understand why something is happening And I'm asking the questions that the public may not know.
So I'm trying to answer you. I can put the website out on our YouTube right now, and anybody who's going to watch this YouTube or is watching it at the moment can see it. I can read it to you. I can answer those questions if you'd like.
What is wrong with having a discussion with questions and not using a computer? And don't tell me I'm not technically savvy.
I'm not saying that,
I'm
but
gonna tell you right now,
but-
because
but-
that's not flying anymore. I'm not taking any more crap from anybody. And if nobody doesn't like it here, you can all go scratch. I'm asking these questions because I want to know and I want the public to know, and tonight they can hear me
well, if I can answer,
answer.
thank you. I don't have the answers to every single question you have, and I would prefer to give the correct answers and
And the
just make
problem,
one
Mr.
up.
Paddock,
Mike, can we take a?
Councilman Dow.
No, I'm not.
Mr.
I'm not.
Paddock,
I'm not taking a break.
don't. I don't care if you do or you don't.
So,
The point of fact is, I'm raising questions that people have asked me.
and I am offering to answer whatever questions you
And you're
have.
sending them back to the website. I don't want them to have to go to a website, give them an answer.
Then I'm looking them up for myself
Look
because,
them up.
and if you can, if you want to ask me specific questions, I'm
I
happy to
have.
answer them.
I have.
But
And
also, Mike, we can't put anything on the agenda. Maybe people should know more about safety in our
Wh-
community.
when-
Are we gonna discuss that? Or,
When-
wait, Mike, please, can I
Okay.
finish my point?
Yes,
Or are we gonna get it on the agenda before our meeting? So we can expect what we're gonna discuss and what our constituents would like to be educated about. I agree, we can educate our constituents. This isn't on the agenda.
What's not?
This discussion.
It should be.
How? Well, then put it on the agenda before the meeting, please.
Why? It's part of the discussion for the motion.
so,
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
so can I go back to what is your specific question?
I've asked them, but each one I ask gets a little more nasty and a little more nasty.
I believe I've
Not
answered it.
you, Not you,
Thank you. I believe I've answered everyone you've asked that
You
I can.
but it seems to be an issue to ask questions. And I'm
Please.
frankly getting a little tired of it.
Please feel
Just
free to ask
because you
whatever.
don't understand the way I think doesn't make me a bad person and doesn't make me undereducated.
Please feel free to ask whatever more questions you would like.
But you don't have to answer them. Can we go for a vote?
If somebody wants to call the vote on the question,
This question?
well, we have a motion and a second. We're in discussion.
And you're running the meeting.
Exactly,
Call a
but-
vote.
Well, usually the board would say, call the question. It's not really up to me to call the question. If there's still discussion, there's still discussion.
I can just answer two of the questions. One is that I think the applicant in this case is actually Ulster County.
Correct.
So Ulster County is applying for this funding that they would then disperse to this project.
If it were to go to.
Yeah, if they get it.
If they
Ulster
secure it.
County gets their funding. The way the CFA funding works is it's a matching program. So usually if you get 500,000, that means you're paying 500,000.
And
So they
I,
do like a 50-50 match.
and I don't know that that's the case with this particular grant. There's, like I said, 150-page document that there are a lot of grants out there available. I'm not familiar with the specifics of this particular grant. But the request came from the county executive, well, the county economic development. They have moved it forward to the legislature. They requested we endorse the grant application.
And then I'd also, for New York State grants, the reimbursement process is extremely rigorous. You have to do exactly what you put down on the application. It's very, very, very rigorous. So I have never gotten a CFA grant. I have gotten one from New York State from the Office of Economic Development. It's very, very rigorous. So.
It's also highly,
And-
highly competitive.
Yeah, so you.
They may not get this.
If you don't do what you say you're gonna do, you don't get the money. So that is something.
And
that
it
I
may
can-
also even be a reimbursement that you have to spend it and be reimbursed. I don't know that for a fact. As I said, I'm not familiar with the particulars of this particular grant. I didn't look into it because we are not a party of it. We are simply endorsing it as the municipality where the business, we did this, a similar endorsement for Arrowwood 2 years ago when they requested it.
They want to see that the municipality is saying, yes, this is a Main Street property that, you know, could get revitalized. So I think we are saying, in endorsing it, we're saying, yes, we'd like to see somebody do something there. And so that's what we would, that's what basically what we're saying is that we getting help revitalizing, that would be a good thing.
That's so painful, Chris.
No,
Thank you.
we knew that from the beginning.
Okay,
You
so,
knew that. I didn't know that.
Thanks for the clarification, Aaron.
Can we call the vote?
if we're done with discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Next, I'm gonna turn it over to Councilwoman Anowen, who emailed us on Monday, I believe, the employee duties specifically for the transfer station employees. It's not a replacement for the county civil service description of the job title. This is a more specific description of the actual day-to-day expectations and assignments
Yes,
of them. So I'll turn it over to you.
yes.
And I
so-
would like to say, a very nice job.
Oh, thank you. So again, just as a recap, all of the positions that we have in town are civil service positions that are registered with the county. So all our positions and the job descriptions are set by the county. But if you read like the laborer position, it doesn't tell you what you're going to be doing at our transfer station as a laborer. So this has been an ongoing discussion of wanting to improve both the operations and the work environment at the transfer station. And we have had ongoing discussions about creating very clear roles within the labor class that will describe the work that needs to be done in any of those roles. And I put at the top that Jeff, the department head, would wants every employee to be cross-trained in every role, so that anyone can do any of them. But I think one of the positions is much more, is like more in the office. And so having one person that mainly does that can be a benefit. And so I just wanted to make that as a note that like everyone should have these and will be able to do everything in them, but it might be that there's one person doing a more of the clerical type work. And then if we have two other laborers, they could split up between the two different types of attendant responsibilities. And this is something that Jeff and I have talked about this a lot, and we worked on this together, and then I sort of flushed it out. So I don't know if you'd like me to read them. There's a few edits that B sent me a few suggested edits. I found a few typos.
Okay.
And I don't know how you guys would like to handle that.
Well, I don't think we need to read the whole
Okay.
thing unless, if all the board members have had it. Does any B, you sent Aaron some changes of
I
yours?
did. I first,
Yeah.
on every category, I said, be advised, no alcohol is allowed on town premises.
Okay.
I also added, Aaron has wearing required visibility gear, so no transfer station user can easily be identified as staff. I wrote, as needed when working outside the office or walking in the yard, and with an indent, wearing all safety gear necessary to comply with OSHA. Second indent, this includes but not limited to high visibility safety vests, safety goggles, hard covered shoes, no sneakers, and plastic gloves. And that fits all three categories. Underneath,
I would have to confirm that the plastic gloves are OSHA required, but just, I
your people might feel better handling bags. of
understood.
baggies in the summer.
I'm just clarifying the difference between required and recommended. And the only reason I'm hesitant is we can't require something that OSHA doesn't require. And we also can't do anything counter to our employee handbook, but I'm fine with those changes. I just want to make sure that we're not saying those are mandatory because I'm not sure we can, but I'll
They're for safety.
agree. But I'm only saying about the gloves. I don't know if we can mandate them. I'll find out.
Okay.
I just,
Anyway,
yeah.
So rejecting.
and that's why we're talking about it tonight.
Right.
We can adopt it subject to, how about if we do this? Once we flesh out what it is, we adopt it subject to review by our attorney and our HR consultant to make sure we haven't put anything in there that goes contrary. And if they do, I'll bring it back to the board and the board can decide what to do.
I read it, it's lovely, and I found something earlier, I can't find it right now, but what are the asterisks on 2 and 3 leading to?
Oh, nothing, just to say that those could be the same person. Like ideally we'll have 2 people and one of them would be in one of those roles and one would be in the other. But they wouldn't, I don't know how Jeff wants to manage it, if he wants one person doing the one every single time and another person doing the other every single time. So I can delete those aspects.
Plus, in future, this is set up with 3 employees in mind. If it
We could
went to
have-
4 employees, 2 employees could be doing a similar job
Exactly.
description.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, and I just say, Aaron, this is brilliant. It's exactly what we need, when you manage somebody, it's expectations, which you made very, very clear, followed by training, which I'm sure we're going to deliver, followed by accountability, holding people to the standard of the job they're doing. So thank you very much. I can only imagine how much work you guys put into this.
I really like how you handled attitude, even the way to treat people, how to talk to people.
Lee, I think you had a couple more things.
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, B, excuse me, I apologize.
Under each category, it says on the top category, the first labor position, it says rejecting commercial waste from entering transfer station, whether it is refuse or recycling. And I wrote, if there's any issues, contact the department head. Not accepting and directing people with loads over 2 yards to other facilities. Any issues, contact the department head.
Yep.
In the same,
Maybe could we just put that in as a general at the top? Any issues with any of these items, contact your department head.
this way you're putting it exactly.
Actually
where
say
it needs-
department head or supervisory employee, because right now
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
department head,
Yeah,
but we don't know what the future may be, so.
Well, would that person be a department head or would it be just another person?
No, right now, under the way our structure is set up, we have made Jeff Fry a department
That's
head,
correct.
but our employee handbook, that's only by a designation right now. That can change in the future if it's not Jeff. And then there may not be a department head, there may be a supervisory employee, which is what many of the other departments have. In our employee handbook, there's a very clear definition of department head, and there are only 4 department heads. Kate is a department head, I am a department head, Jeff Fry is a department head, the judges are a department head, and we have made by our choice, by this board's choice, Ashley was made a department head because she's controlling her summer staff, all the other departments are supervisory employees. It's important that we use the correct terminology that matches our employee
So I
handbook.
say that for the transfer station, we should make a department head. He's
Then we
doing
have to
his own
amend our
department,
employee
then we
handbook,
then
and
we
that's-
amend it. But anyway.
So my point is right now, it may not, we have designated him as a department head at this very moment. If it's not Jeff Fry, it may be a supervisory employee.
Why did the next person's title change other than the fact that it's not listed? in the
Because it's
handbook?
designated by the board at that moment.
Well, it's both designated by the board and it's the position. So because Jeff is the highway superintendent and the highway superintendent is a department head,
Mhm.
he can be the department head of the transfer station in the same way that we make Mike the head of the before Mike was the department head.
Yeah, and it's actually, it's not quite as, it's not because he's the highway superintendent. It's just, we designated
We
him by
designated him
resolution,
department
made
head.
him the
Oh, so
department
we
head.
could make the,
We could make the next.
We could make the
person.
next person, but my point is, it is not an automatic, so that's why I'm asking for one or the other.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
add,
Put a
I'll,
slash there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll add a slash.
I'm just trying to,
Put a slash there.
I'm trying to not
Like,
set up discrepancies with this, which is very detailed with our handbook. And because as soon as you set up discrepancies, it creates
Yeah,
problems.
no, I think it's a,
So,
I liked B's additions and I like
Yeah.
adding the slash supervisor
But I
employee.
think
Yes,
that you have
slash.
a good point here. The additional info contact department head could be generic for everything, but in these two instances.
There's more than
it's-
just
it's like-
that.
It could say report incident to department head, because if a commercial person is trying over and over to sneak through, the department head should know.
Department head should know immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And the department head can deal with it
Exactly.
Right.
if it's that important.
and the department head could be either the town supervisor, or it could be a designee that the board has designated at that moment. And that's, so it can still say department head, but I'm just saying, if we decide down the road that there's a supervisory employee at the transfer station, that would probably be the more appropriate person who would then report it to the department head.
Right, and then what I heard Chris saying was that he likes having it in these specific bullets because it points out when something is an issue that really should be reported immediately. And we can also add a general one. I think we should do both.
And the reason I bring it up is the term department head is confused by many people. And what I'm trying to do is not reiterate or continue the confusion. It's like many people think Jerry is the code enforcement department head. He is not. He is the supervisory employee by our handbook. If we want to change our handbook, we can, but by our handbook, that's his title within our handbook. So.
Okay, communicating with coworkers when a bin is being hauled that needs to be blocked off for safety reasons. As set by the UCRA. I'm still in the first group, the first category. I don't know how many spots down it is. I took what Aaron wrote and added bullets, moved it, separated it, split it. I can't tell you where I did that because I don't know. I just inset them. That's pretty much it. It flows pretty much the same all the way down through. Knowing, and the next category, transfer station laborer, recycling bin attendant. Knowing up-to-date rules regarding what is accepted in each bin from the town's hauler, comma, UCRRA.
Perfect.
Interacting with all users courteously, because we had heard in the past that they weren't courteous, regarding what they can and cannot dispose of in a positive and proactive manner. Bold-faced, all boxes should be broken down before they're placed in the bin. I bolded the bins with the most need for monitoring are the commingle bin and the cardboard bin, which are distant apart. Under the same category, when there are no other users to interact with, cleaning and tidying the area of loose debris and garbage. This includes but is not limited to. And I set what Aaron had in insets. Is that correct, Aaron? I
Yep.
inserted and set them.
Yep.
In the third category down, monitoring the MSW bins. It says monitoring and sorting monitoring and sorting disposal of said solid waste from transfer station users for compliance. I put a bullet in with the bold, this includes restricting users from dumping wet paint, asbestos, commercial waste, and loads over 2 yards. And it says in a friendly manner, proactive. Any issues, contact the department head / supervisory position. And
Can we
still-
add to that or any other hazardous materials?
I want
Because,
that right
yeah, yeah, because they changed the list.
Yeah,
Will they post,
regularly,
do we
yeah.
have a list to post? of
Yes.
hazardous
yeah,
material?
they update us.
Ensuring that no MSW bin is filled over capacity and is only filled to the maximum allowed by UCRA. I bolded, if this occurs during operation hours for all bins, the department head should be notified, department head / supervisory person should be notified immediately, and users should be restricted from the use of MSW bins until the situation is remedied. On down, customer service in the yard, directing users, and at the end, in a friendly manner, and if there's any issues, again, I added contact the department head / supervisory position. Any place where there could be a confrontation or any kind of problem, I believe that because of what's happened in the past, and because of the he said, she said, that the sooner you take on to contact the department head / supervisor, the quicker it's remedied.
I agree with that, and I actually think it makes it more in line with the labor class position,
Mhm.
because the responsibility should fall on the
Person.
higher.
Correct. Right now, we have 3 laborers there, but at some point, we may have,
And they do not know who or how to answer. I don't think.
well, right now, we have 2 laborers
2
there
laborers.
and so,
I liked these additions, so, and then I had 2 things that I realized, which was the compost. So I added a bullet in with that, the recycling responsibilities is checking the compost bin through the day, switching the bins when needed to make sure the service is available, notifying the department head / supervisory employee when the compost bins need to be emptied prior to needing to close the service. So I added that, and then at the end where I said there's other duties you might need to execute, I added hauling compost material.
yeah, and I noticed you had the plowing. Did you have the mowing and weed whacking
Yes, she
or?
does.
Okay,
I copied that from
Yeah.
your job
Okay,
descriptions.
and something I don't think I did put in my original was brush chipping.
Oh, brush chipping.
Occasionally, we have them
Okay,
doing brush chipping. And then also in the MSW section, we should put a note that fluorescent bulbs should not be
Is
disposed
that
of.
part of the?
That's part of the RRA. Actually,
I mean,
that's,
is that part of the restricted?
yeah,
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 Yeah.
but it's one that comes up
yeah.
often.
A lot of people don't know how to get rid of fluorescent bulbs. Throwing them in with your garbage is not the answer. Sadly, the answer keeps changing. It's a moving target, but in all cases, throwing them in the garbage is not the answer. Whether we collect them, whether we send people to the RRA with them, the RRA continues to change their opinion of that, depending on, and I'll be honest, a lot of this depends on the cost. I just saw in the Freeman that the value of plastic has increased substantially in the last few months, and now the RRA is suddenly considering taking some of the plastics that they didn't want to take previously, so.
Which category are we putting the chips in?
That would be probably in both of them at the end, where it says there's other duties.
Right.
You might, because on like Thursdays, it's a slower day, so probably one person can handle the yard attendant.
You might
duties
want
for
to just
those.
say general
Yeah.
facility maintenance.
General, that's a good
And,
term.
and because it might be mowing, it might be painting, it might
My
be,
question is, if you don't spell it out for them, they're not gonna know what they're doing. You're better off putting it down and then.
well, we're not gonna be able to tell them every single thing they may do. It's whatever
I'll
that
put that as
day
a
brings. Yeah,
and
Those are
general
examples. Yeah,
facility.
those are
maintenance.
examples of what it might be, but
And it could be added to over time as people think. of-
absolutely.
Yeah, this is our own internal list of duties. That this is something that can be, changed as, you'd need to change it as protocols change.
I mean, in all these cases, they're gonna be directed by either the department head or the supervisory employee. Today, I need you to go mow here. Today, I need you to go weed whack here. So I don't wanna just say only the things that are listed there are what the general maintenance of it is, of the facility.
You have to add the general maintenance in, because again, this is great for onboarding when we bring somebody in.
Yeah.
But it's more importantly at the time when we have to hold somebody accountable. And we have to say,
Right.
duties and responsibilities of the job include other general maintenance, so let's.
Well, and in the county's labor
Enforce it.
description, maintenance and it's things like in that job description from the county, it's like and these are just examples.
Yeah.
And they say at the top, this is not a fully illustrative list, and I'm making up the exact wording. but,
Maybe a cut and paste from the county's description might be in order.
There's a lengthy list, but it's more, the labor description there is more about somebody who's doing buildings and grounds or is working on a highway road crew or something. The laborer position is a very large umbrella that can encompass a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's why theirs is not real specific in general, because it encompasses a lot of things. So that's why I think general facility maintenance covers the basics of what it may or may not be.
The safety gear that I named is used, because I placed the phone call, by 2 large hauling companies.
Okay,
So it may not fit OSHA standards, but it sure is the Dickens fit safety standards.
I was not disputing that it did or did. I just wanted to make sure that if we were quoting OSHA, that it really is
Take it
OSHA.
out then. I really don't care, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you that this is what their drivers are required to have to
Yep.
drive their sanitation trucks, and plastic gloves are necessary for them to pick garbage bags out of garbage cans if they don't have a tipper.
Yeah, I think we could say if.
When
we could just-
handling.
When handling, wearing all safety gear necessary, and then
Yeah.
this includes, but is not limited to the list. You could just take out, if we're not sure if it's in OSHA, we can just. take
We
it.
can easily correct it and find out. I mean, I
Yeah.
just,
We should leave it in for
Yeah.
now, but
yeah.
we can look. If everybody's
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah.
But I
that's
think we
fine.
should leave that list in, because I think.
Absolutely.
I mean.
When handling refuse,
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to be wearing plastic gloves 8 hours a day if they're not. Certainly the person at the window handling it,
They're
They
not
wouldn't have-
they're handling money, and that's worse than. the
well, they're not
garbage.
handling money because we don't take cash, but
Well, I know we don't, but what I'm saying is they're still handling something that's been handled.
agreed, but
Erin, I think you did a fantastic job.
yes.
My recommendation is maybe have Davey look it over, only because he's been there for so long. He's the only one left that's there to day-to-day operations, just to see if you missed something. I don't
Yeah.
think he did. But he might,
I
have,
did
something.
interview him
okay,
a while ago when I built but I will, that's a good
yeah.
idea. I should sit down with him and
And
go over it.
another suggestion I have, especially with anyone new coming in, maybe have a chart for them to initial off that they check bins certain times of the day. So they know things are covered, just so they, until they get into a routine of what they're supposed to be doing. Or even keep a chart in place so they're held accountable that you said you checked this bin at 3:15, you initialed that you did. That might not be a bad idea
I
either.
like that idea.
I like that
Makes
idea.
accountability.
I like that idea.
Yeah, because I think that we're finding that there are these certain key points in the day that it's
Mhm.
very important that get
Right.
done.
Who calls in to have the polls?
So
That's the question that I don't
That's
see. on
why I
here.
have those highlighted, because I had that question too. So right now, it's,
Jeff would like it to be the person
Yeah.
working the booth and handling the paperwork. He would like that person to have the rapport with the county, with UCRA, because they're the ones that are. We're not saying they're sort of the administrative person at the transfer station, so that's how Jeff would prefer it.
Right,
So-
so I put that in that job description. I think the question I thought you were getting at, B, is who's making the decision? Is it that person?
I think it's that person or the department head or the supervisory employee, but it's. If we don't have one of those people who is on site. Every minute we're
I
open,
think you should specify who it's gonna be. so
I think it
there's
should be
no
that
question.
person. Yeah, I think it should be the person calling it
And there's
in.
no,
So,
Make
I
it a
didn't know.
hierarchy, you know, this, if this person's here and it needs a poll, then they have the authority, the supervisory employee. If they're not, then the administrative employee. And there are times when we only have laborers there, but if we have to get a poll rather
yeah,
than
they
close
gotta
it
call
down.
it.
But if you put it, hey, this person, then this person, then this person, or.
I think
then
it's
you
too
get-
confusing. I think we should just
I
designate
I have
one
it-
person.
Yeah, I have it.
What if they're-
I think it should be
communicating to
the clerk.
transfer- I
Well, it's
put it
whoever is
whoever's-
filling the role of the clerk for that day.
That's
Every
how
time,
I
every
put
minute
it.
we're open, somebody's in that booth.
Yeah.
So it's whoever is filling that role for that day. And, if they are out sick, obviously with only 3 people and 3 job descriptions, if one person is out sick, somebody is covering for the other person. And
So it's more if
Yeah.
you're filling that role at that time, it becomes your responsibility.
But I think even the way you wrote the duty about how it takes planning, vision, and foresight of demand is a supervisory.
I know, that's why I put that in bold, because I had that same thought when I read this, it's like,
right, whoever is the department head or the supervisory employee is the one who is going to be training these people essentially.
okay,
And ultimately, they would be the one saying, here's when you call, when it's, because the RRA changes, again, they changed their opinion. First, they said, don't call us until it's at a certain height then other times, they call us and they say, hey, we've got a driver going your direction. We want to pull this bin tomorrow. We don't care if it's full or not. And I've put up a fight about that because we get the same charge for the pull, whether it's full or whether it's not full, but.
okay, so I think I fixed it. So I'll just run this by you guys. So in all places where I reference communication around the bins being hauled, the communication happens to the transfer station clerk. And then it's when the bins need to be hauled so that they don't get overfilled in a day, based on the standards set by the department head / supervisory employee.
Perfect.
And what about also the UCRA?
Oh, right,
They're
yeah.
gonna be the ones calling in.
Right.
Okay, great. Does that fix it for
Yep.
everybody? Okay,
Yep.
I will make sure that is in.
Because if it's being abused either direction, ultimately, it's not those 3 laborers who are resolving that issue.
Right,
It's either me or the supervisor who,
supervisory employee.
no, it might be
Yeah.
the
The
supervisor
supervisor of the town.
who's making that call, or it might be to say to the RA, hey, because now it becomes a financial issue. If they're pulling it and it's only half full, we're not essentially getting our money's worth.
I have
So,
a question.
yes.
If we have that situation where there's a partially full bin,
Mhm.
but there's another bin that has material in it that's relatively easy to move. I'm not saying a metal bin or whatever, and they don't commingle that anyway, correct?
No, the metal bin is totally
Totally
ours.
separate because it can bring.
We get the bin from the metal vendor is our contract with that metal vendor.
That's a revenue.
He brings a bin, we fill it up, he takes it away when it's full. The RA has no, in our contract, that is one of the items that we are allowed to deal with ourselves. It's actually the only item we're allowed to deal with ourselves. Well, no, the compost. We choose to take the compost to them because their price is a lot better, but we're not required to take
About
compost to them.
computers and coils and things from refrigerators.
The refrigerators and anything that has Freon in it, we have a contract with, I believe it's called Interstate is the company. And when we get a certain number, a call is made to them to come. And so that's why the calling isn't just the RRA. It's the same with tires, with casings. Casings actually tends to come on a fairly regular basis and just take what we have. Because they like turning over their volume. The interstate waits, I believe, waits for us to call. The same with the fluorescent bulbs. We are still working with a company, but it's starting to look like the RRA might be a cheaper source for us to work with. So we would then collect them, and when we take the compost to Kingston, we could also take fluorescent bulbs.
So we are currently are taking the composting in
Yes,
at a much lesser rate. than
much
this.
lesser rate than the company we started with, significantly lesser. And it's because of the volume that the county does. They're able to do that lesser rate. And that's why the fluorescent bulbs, I'm looking into their costs versus what it takes months for us to fill up a fluorescent bulb bin. We don't get that many. I suspect a lot of people do break them and put them into their garbage, and we don't see it because it's in bags. I have never gotten a complaint from the county of a fluorescent bulb being in, but I just took 2 out of my house yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I gotta figure out what to do with these. They're the hardest thing to deal with.
We don't ship them back in boxes anymore.
We still do, but we stopped doing the 8-footers because we would have had to charge so much money to ship back the 8-footers that it was cost prohibitive. So we still take the 6 feet, the 4 feet, or anything less, and do ship them back in boxes. But I'm looking at the county's cost has dropped significantly versus the cost that we're paying with this company that we're using. We did find we were using a vendor in New Jersey who Harry had found. We found a local vendor in Ulster County who was doing it a little bit cheaper. It was similar pricing, but a little bit cheaper. We started using them. And, but we haven't had another call. We've only had one shipment all year so far. I'm anticipating we'll have another one at some point. And most of the times when we have a shipment, I'll be very honest, it's that we've redone bulbs in our offices and we're shipping our stuff out. It's not so much stuff that we've collected at the transfer station.
Okay, since I was the one that asked Aaron to do these job descriptions, I want to thank her. And it's very easy to sit and go over somebody else's work and find what they haven't put in. But what she put in was very pertinent. The only thing I could say was like, no alcohol, and my other thing was the safety.
Mhm.
And everything else was great.
No,
Thanks, Steve.
thank you. And I think, yeah, I appreciate you putting this together.
I think the suggestions that came out were good
Mhm.
and I think, yeah, I think it also helps us understand the jobs as a board.
So.
I think what we should all do is ride in a garbage truck on a good hot summer day. to appreciate what they do.
So the resolution is the town of Rochester Town Board adopts the employee duties for the transfer station as presented by Councilwoman Allen and will add as amended on July 8th, 2021. And then we'll also add town supervisor will submit these to the attorney for the town and the town's HR consultant for verification. There are no discrepancies with the employee handbook.
Right.
Or
Law.
federal or state law. Yeah,
That's,
I'll make that motion.
okay,
It's like,
I'll second it.
since I made it up as I
Love
went,
that.
so, I think we had all our discussion already, so, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
I would ask that all board members get a copy of the new.
Yes, I
Yep.
will circulate that.
Yep.
And
And
open the can of worms, you only have to make 20 more jobs.
I was just thinking of the
Listen,
same
I,
thing. for the
guys,
other department.
I actually love doing this.
Wow.
It
really good.
is, I would love to do it for all the jobs in town, because I think then I would really get to see what everyone does. It's incredible when you put it all on paper. You really have an appreciation.
well, many of them, the county job description is very
Is-
specific.
yeah.
In this case, because the labor is such a large umbrella, it's one of there is a labor category
Right.
and then a labor job description as well. So because of that, it really is a none of the above kind of category. It's like when you're taking a multiple choice question and it's, you know, the last question is, the last answer is none of the above. That's kind of what this is. So with that being said, then moving on, the employee vacancies. So the Town of Rochester Town Board establishes a subcommittee of Supervisor Baden, Councilwoman Anowen, and Transfer Station Supervisor, which actually should say Department Head, Fry, to interview and make recommendation to the town board of candidates to fill vacant laborer positions.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So for discussion, we did put it out on Indeed the week before the 4th of July. We've
It's been
had,
a couple weeks.
yeah, it's been out a couple weeks now. We've had a considerable amount of responses. Rather than us having to convene a meeting for the entire board to do interviews this way, it's myself, Aaron as the liaison, and Jeff as the supervisory employee. And we would, similar to what we did with the planning board secretary, we would have a subcommittee who then would not have to meet in a public meeting situation. Not that we're trying to hide anything, but it's just you have to convene it, you have to notice it, for a job interview. It gets a little,
Mike, do we need a subcommittee? Why can't we do it with Aaron, Jeff Fry, and who's the gentleman that's working the booth all the time now?
Davey?
Davey?
Let Davey do it, because he's the one that knows the job better than anybody.
the only reason I would be hesitant to do that is if it's after hours, then he's an hourly employee. Those of us are salary, so I have no problem stepping out of it
No,
if
the
you,
reason I'm saying that, Mike, is
Yeah.
because that gives you one step back, and then you can still look at it when they're all done.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm just saying that if the interviews are in the evening, I could check of his availability. I don't think we can mandate him to do it because it's after hours.
He also isn't in a management or supervisory role. So it would be an advisory role.
Yeah,
But he knows the job better than anybody else. He's done it.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm saying that would be one thing we might have to check on.
if you don't want me there, I'm fine
No,
with
I
not
don't
being
care
there,
whether
so,
you're there or
yeah,
not.
yeah.
I'm just saying, I would even add him as a fourth. It doesn't matter to me. What I'm saying to you is, you got the man that knows the job better than anybody, but you don't put him to look for employees, and that's kind of silly. Maybe somebody should find out what he feels should be looked at. He's done that job longer than anybody.
Well, but he assisted in this job description, and I don't know, however you want to do it.
I think you should definitely be there.
Doesn't, fine with me, whatever the board prefers.
What about a second interview? Maybe
A second interview?
Usually there's less people on the first interview and more on the second,
Right.
if you want.
I mean, what we did on the planning board
Well,
position is we
Oh,
developed the top
yeah.
5.
right.
And then we offered it to those 5 and it created itself down to 3. And then actually, by the time we interviewed, it got down to 1. And we looked further and then in the interim, we got a resume, not through Indeed, just in the mail. And so we ended up interviewing 3 people to get to the 1.
So why don't we do it that way? Just then keep your subcommittee, but bring it to the board when you call them down.
And that's really what we did last time. We brought you a name of one person.
But you're saying you can't meet without labeling as a subcommittee.
No, I'm not saying
Oh,
we
okay.
can't meet without
We
label.
did
I
this
was
for the
I was
last-
trying to do this to
Consistent.
be,
Yeah.
to have to be consistent, but also to have a formal designation of who is gonna, and in my mind, it's the supervisor, the liaison, and the department head. They are the 3 management people who oversee these employees to some degree. The liaison does not necessarily oversee the employees, but they are the go-between between the board. They're the board's representative
Right.
in that department, so.
I mean,
I'm not saying Davey doesn't bring anything to the table. It's just he's not. It may put him in an awkward position too.
I think we'd have to ask him.
Yeah.
What he thinks about it. It's like if he wanted to do that and was comfortable with it, I wouldn't have.
I don't have a problem if he sits in with interviews. I
Yeah.
just, if they are in the evening or after hours, then I just point out it becomes a problem. We can't, he is under, then the other thing is too, he is under a collective bargaining agreement, and so we can't mandate overtime, and we,
That's because he's
Except for-
working out of titles. per se. Kind of,
he is right now.
he's working out of titles.
He is working out of title. Absolutely.
Doesn't matter.
So are we sticking with the original resolution or are we,
I would say stick with the original resolution.
okay. So we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. The copy of your contract. I sent all of you, I tried to call through and make comparisons, so you could all understand exactly where we stood on all that. And then I put in the current one. I don't necessarily want to put that up on the screen. But they are official quotes. It does not rise to the level of needing an RFP. It also doesn't rise to the level of needing a formal 3 quotes. It is the amount of money spent is under our procurement policy meets the 2 quotes. The 2 quotes I got were the company that approached us. And then in order to get the second quote, I reached out to our IT consultant who recommended the second company that we got quotes from. So, but because they both came and talked to us and met with us, and then went off and did our proposal, as I said to you last week, the proposals were not an apples to apples comparison. I tried to get us as close to that as possible by approaching each other to make sure that they were quoting us. Currently, and that's where with Xerox, we get 2,400 per machine. Both quotes from the 2 new companies are lumping them together and either offering us 4,800 pages for 2 machines total, or the 7,000. I went back and looked, the letter envelope capability exists in every situation because they're off Xerox. We only have a 2-drawer system. We have the 8.5 by 11. We have the letter size and the legal size.
How do the envelopes count?
They will count as one
Part
copy.
of the 7,000.
Yeah. So that I would recommend that we up to the 7,000, especially bearing in mind that even at the highest offer we have, it's less money than we're paying currently. And right now with Xerox, one machine almost every month goes over the 2,400. The other one is under the 2,400, but not by a lot. So when they're lumped together, we're probably going to be in the neighborhood of about 5,000, 5,200 copies. This is black and white per month. But if we're now going to start printing letters, and with the 4-drawer capability, it will also give us a drawer for 11 by 17, which Kate can tell you is not used often. It's used more in this office with maps and things, and they hand feed them in right now, which is really annoying. Or you can change the second drawer from a legal size, expand it to that and load it and just print as if you're printing legal, and it pulls, but it takes a lot of legwork. The other difference between the 2 machines, the lower level price of each one is when it prints dual side, it is it what's called a reverse feed. So it feeds in, it flips it, feeds in again. The upper level one goes through one time and it digitally images both sides. And so your printing time is significantly less.
Less opportunity for jamming too.
Yep, less opportunity for jamming. And I will say from the Toshiba, from the second company, their price per page on the overage and on the color was cheaper than the other vendor. So my own personal recommendation is that we go with the Toshiba with the hole punch, the saddle stitch. All those things are not things we will use a lot, but we will use them occasionally. And I think Kate has said that she thinks some of those things will be very helpful. Over here with the Youth Commission, it's very possible we might be able to start printing our own, the quarterly booklet that they do. We could start printing them in-house instead of sending them out, although Stedner's in Ellenville, and I don't mind saying their name because they give us a very reasonable price on this. So,
Hey, which one do you want to use?
I only met with Toshiba, so I'm a little biased.
You're the one gonna be
But I do
using it.
think, you know, even though the envelope is gonna be a cost, I don't know what it is per sheet to print, you're saving on labels, and labels are quite expensive.
Well, I was thinking,
So-
if you're using 5,000, give or take, and you're gonna print larger pages, so maybe you print 100 of those,
Mhm.
that still would leave you 1,900 envelopes.
and even at the more expensive price, we're still under what we're paying currently.
Seems like a no-brainer.
And the other thing is that they will, as soon as I tell them, they will deliver, hopefully for August 1st, they will pay us out. They will pay our lease for the next 2 months on the other machines. They will take them and store them and then deliver them back to Xerox for us.
Did we find out where
Have not found out where yet.
they service from? We don't know where they service from.
Xerox?
Toshiba.
Oh. Toshiba has offices locally. They're in Dutchess County, they're in Orange County, they're in Ulster County. So I don't know where they service from, but they service from more local than
That's
Xerox.
what I'm asking.
Yeah. And they have on-staff service, whereas Xerox is a subcontractor.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had trouble with. correct?
Yes, correct. We had our gentleman from Albany.
That eliminates who was born and they didn't know.
Yes,
And this will allow to bind packets together, right?
yes. That's what
And
that saddle stitch
Saddle
is.
stitch,
Yeah.
okay. Because that's helpful too. If we ever adopt, let's say, a new updated comprehensive plan, we can have 10 main ones, you know, rather than having them printed professionally.
Even the budget comes through with the
Yeah,
spiral, right?
yeah.
When we're doing
We
budget.
could. Yeah. I was thinking
Actually,
more
we could,
permanent
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
Like a zoning pack, you know,
Yeah,
everything
the
is,
spiral, I don't know that we'd be able to do, but we would be able to do what they call a saddle stitch, which basically takes it, prints it, somehow, we tell it to fold it, and then it puts
Oh, okay. I got you.
binds the seam.
Yeah.
That's the saddle stitch.
The closest one is in Newburgh.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, let me just get the details, so we're making the resolution for the correct. And I appreciate you spending some time on this, because this allows us to get it in place for August 1st, potentially.
That takes care of they then have to reimburse us.
They'll reimburse us for 2 months, August and
Prorate.
September. Yeah,
already.
that amount originally that he put in there was a 3-month. And they both companies offered the same thing in that sense. It was exactly the same. They were offering, and that was an estimate of our monthly cost based on what our monthly bill is. We currently from Xerox get 2 bills, one for each machine. Even though they both come labeled community center, they have different different machine numbers on them. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the right contract up here. So the resolution would be that we authorize the town supervisor to sign a contract with Toshiba for a 60-month contract with 7,000 black and white pages per month included. Black and white overage at 0.0075 cents per page. And color pages billed at 0.049 cents, 0.049 per page. And this is for 2 Toshiba machines. And the features would be the finisher with stapling, hole punch, booklet enabling, saddle stitch, and the 4-drawer 500 paper capability. So I'll make that motion since I just said it all.
I'll second.
I think we've already discussed it,
Do you
so.
want to, it's effective August 1st.
Oh, yes. Effective August 1st or as soon thereafter as Toshiba can fulfill. Because if I get it to them in the next
Right.
couple days, they probably can get it initiated and get it to us by August 1st.
And did you say 2? for
It's two
Was
machines.
that in the resolution?
Yes.
Great, sorry.
Lease of 2 copier machines effective August 1st, 2021, or as soon thereafter.
Does one of these machines come out of buildings and one comes out of the,
Neither one comes out of buildings. They come out of, the budget line is in our I'd have to look at the specific title, but it's basically our printing line. We put all our copy paper, all that, because multiple departments use both machines. In the old days, they actually tried to split it up between departments. It kind of made no sense to me. The court pays for their own copier out of their budget because their copier is dedicated just to them. It's a separate contract. These are a 5-year contract that was signed by the previous supervisor with Xerox 5 years ago. And it's budgeted in a general budget line for copies.
okay, it's not a 1620.4 line with several digits
Um,
after it?
It's not a 1620.4. I don't remember. I
That's
can
cool.
tell you exactly which line it comes out of.
I just wondered if it came out of 2 separate lines,
No, it comes out of the same line.
main building and one is Kate's office. But you're right.
No, we don't take-
It overlaps.
Yeah, because Kate's is the assessor, the supervisor, dog animal control and clerk. And highway too as well,
And a lot of transfer station.
and a lot of transfer station. And over here is recreation, planning and zoning, code enforcement. But the budget line that they come out of, and I'm sorry, I'll just have to pull up the budget here. It's out of the general fund and it is. Central printing and mailing. And in that, we have all our copy paper that we purchase comes out of that, but that code, that line, it's 1670 B.
Okay.
The lease for the copiers comes out of that. The lease for the postage machines come out of that. Post office box rental comes out of that.
So it's not just a straight building.
No, it's called central printing and mailing, which to me is exactly what we're doing. It's a centralized printing for many departments. So that was a change that we made when we went to the budget code 3 years ago. We changed it. I believe it used to be taken and broken up, but there was
For
absolutely no
everybody's
reason to break it up. It was just made more work for the bookkeeper to try to break it into different lines. So. Two additional resolutions.
Did we vote on that?
Oh,
Nope.
no. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. I will notify the other vendor. And Kate, did I send you the copy of the proposals, basically, as I broke them down?
No,
Okay.
no, I only have
Um,
the address.
I'll send that to you. I'll also send you copies of the original proposals. I'll give you
Those I
my,
do have.
those you have. Okay, I'll give you my breakdown just to consolidate it,
Okay.
to take out all the advertising portion of it and just got it down to dollars and cents. So we received our AUD. Back from the accountants yesterday. Happy to say that we have increased fund balance in both general and highway. The additional money that we had earmarked for being taken out of the fund balance to help lower taxes was not needed last year. And we also have significantly reduced our debt. We knocked 220,000 and a little bit. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it was 140,000 plus the truck payment, which was 80 some thousand, 82 or 86. So the math of those three payments was our 220 that we've knocked off our debt. As usual, Sycamore, Torch, Allen, and Churchill did a very nice job with this. So I'm presenting to you to request authorization to allow me to have Sycamore, Torch, Allen, and Churchill file the AUD on the town's behalf. And I can go through any specifics that you would like on. I emailed all of you yesterday the PDF, which was a combination of the various reports. Includes their cover page, the actual reporting of each account. I could, if the board would like, I can publicly say our balance sheet for each.
Get a motion yet?
Well, we're not really in a motion. We're just kind of still in a presentation.
But you are, what you were saying is you're going to be asking for that.
I'm going to be asking for that motion ultimately. I can give you whatever presentation the board would like us to make here. I can give comparisons. Clearly, it's a 75-page document, so.
There was an overage and underage of something, which got reduced
There are,
to a smaller amount.
yes.
Can you explain that?
We had $105,000 that we discovered last year was set aside by the previous boards, was three $35,000 payments for Cablevision. It was, for some reason, deposited into the grant fund. It totally did not belong there. It is capital projects that money was set aside for. It was discovered last year in trying to figure out why there was so much money in the grant fund, and in going back through a combination of resolutions, and Kate was very helpful in helping me find those. I identified the three $35,000 payments that were made into the grant fund. It was money that was in there when I came into office. I had no idea what the source of it was. Once we've identified that, last year, Sycamore, Torch, Allen, and Churchill stated that that should be moved to the capital projects fund.
Did you find the source of it?
It was well, it was one resolution for 35,000. The other two resolutions never happened. But essentially, it was money set aside out of the general fund, out of the fund balance, of three $35,000 payments to put toward increasing Cablevision at the time, which now would be broadband, but
So that's more of a capital project.
it's absolutely a capital project, and it should have been put in there and earmarked properly. It was not. It was just put into the grant fund, and as I said, anything that happened prior, I had no knowledge of where the money came from, what it was for. We had to do a lot of digging back through records to figure out what it was. So once we determined what that money was, they said, move it to the capital projects. So that's why you'll see we have a significant, we had 17,000 something in the capital projects at the end of last year, and we now have it. More money. And we did find the resolution for the first 35,000 where it was specifically earmarked for, because when you put money in the capital projects, you're supposed to also adopt a resolution stating what that money is for. And there's a whole process that it has to, before it's spent, it's got to go through potential permissive referendum. There's a lot. I have a suspicion as it was put in the grant fund just to not hide it, but to just get it somewhere out of the general fund.
Mike, was that last year's or this year's, this 105? I mean, as in 19?
We discovered it last year during 2020.
Mhm.
Excuse me. We discovered it at the end of 2019, I believe. We didn't come up with answers until some point in 2020. Once we resolved it, we made that transfer and we did a resolution to transfer that. And I want to say it was around April, May.
Yeah, it was like,
It was early in the year,
I think it was before the pandemic, actually.
so it may have even been February or March.
Yeah.
It did take a little research to, and it was only because, like I said, there was this money in the grant fund, and we hadn't previously used the grant fund much, but when we got the JCAP grant, that's what started me asking questions. When I looked at that bank account, I was like, why is there all this money in the grant fund? And were we supposed to have spent it? That was my first question. And then when I discovered what it really was, I was like, this is not grant money. This is because what we call the grant fund is really a bank account that's an extension of the general fund. And you'll see when we get grants, that money is reflected in the general fund, which is why sometimes our revenue line and our expenditure line are increased above what we originally budgeted. But it's because that money was not planned income or planned expenses. They just get added on to the original budget. We do a budget amendment to put that money back in there.
Should that money go into a community development block grant fund or something?
The state says it's part of general fund.
Okay.
It's operating fund. That's what the state says.
Okay.
Yeah. The capital projects is very specific as to the laws of when you establish something for a future savings for capital projects, you know it's going to be an expensive project. So maybe you put a little bit each year away toward it, but it has to be earmarked for a specific item. And our record keeping of that in past was not very good. There are a lot of pages and ledgers with little handwritten pencil notes, and many of them say truck or building. And unfortunately, that's not real helpful.
Okay, so with this AUD, wasn't there a problem with wages and health insurance?
Yes.
also?
It was not a problem with the AUD. The
Not
AUD,
maybe, but
so the AUD,
allocations?
right. Last year, when I did the budget, I wanted to have an accurate picture of what the town was paying for health insurance. We know what our bill is. We know that we pay 80% or up to 80% of the deductible for employees based on the way our contract reads. We pay the first 40, they pay the middle 20, we pay the second 40. Some employees pay a portion of their weekly paycheck toward health insurance. Not all, but some. Some are grandfathered in from previous. That money was being deducted and being put into a budget line, not a budget line, a holding line. And it was not being reflected into the account. Starting last year in 2020, we made a change that was not properly understood how it should have been posted. So what was happening is, let's just use an example that is made up numbers, but say an employee is getting $1,000 a week. When we give that employee $1,000 a week, their employee line is billed $1,000 a week, but we're not really giving them 1,000. We're giving them 800, and 200 of it is still kept by us for health insurance, union dues, whatever we may deduct from their paycheck. But our expenditure line is still reflecting $1,000. So in essence, the expenditure is already reflected. Now, the $200 coming back to us was being incorrectly credited within the books. So it was being double credited. So initially, with the AUD, I was told we were off by $72,000. I also was told yesterday, which I never asked the question previously. They said it's not unusual. Many years we were off by not, in way past years, considerably more than that. I wasn't accepting that. They could have just done a correction to correct it. I wasn't accepting that. We dug into it. We discovered this double bookkeeping error in the way it was being posted, and we corrected the problem. And when we were finished correcting it, we took that $72,000 difference down to $17,000 on a $4.2 million budget. The way they deal with that is there could be typo errors that are made when it's entered in. The only way you will ever know that is if you do a forensic audit line by line by line of 1,075 pages of journal entries. And Secretary Allen and Churchill assures me that this is a very small number, and they budgeted into a holding account as a correction.
And it's just a bookkeeping
It's a
error.
book-
It's not a.
Our bank
it's not
account-
missing funds.
No, it's not missing funds. Our bank account and our bookkeeping do not match up. And it's because of the way, and the health insurance was the prime. It was something we changed. Actually, we changed it in 2019. And I'm guessing in 2019, we were probably off a little bit as well, but they didn't inform me that they presented us the AUD. And what he said to me is that he said, "You're the first supervisor who's ever asked that question." So when I asked that question, he gave me the answer, and I didn't accept that answer. So we looked and we found the bulk of it. And it was essentially the methodology for how it was being posted. Instead of being taken out of the holding account, it was being taken out of cash, but it never was cash. It should have been taken out of that holding. Like, for example, if we pay union dues, it goes into a holding account specifically for union dues. When we write the check for union dues, it comes out of that holding account. But because we don't write a check for health insurance money coming to us, because it's not really money coming to us, the employee's not giving us $200 or $100 or whatever the number is. We're saying we're paying them 1,000 and then we're taking back some of it. So it's the way it was being posted.
Right.
It took us a couple months to work through and sorting it out. So
Did we have discrepancy last year?
I don't know, because as I said, I didn't ask the question last year, and they have always just, when there is a discrepancy, we could change our policy and go to a full audit system. Some towns do. There is not a requirement of it. But there is absolutely, the bank account matches up with it. It's what budget line
Right.
it came out of is where and they look at it as 17,000 out of 4 million is a small enough percentage that, and the state does as well. So
And again, just to be clear, that's 17,000 is just it is a debits and credits error within the account. It's not a
Correct.
missing 17
No,
grand.
it is a debit and credit error that the bank balance and the computer balance. And they also, Secretary Sheldon and Churchill recommends that we go to QuickBooks next year. And I am leaning that direction because the software that we have been using for a long period of time is specifically written for municipal organizations, but it allows you to make some of these
Right.
mistakes, whereas QuickBooks would not allow you to enter it in wrong. If you try to enter it in wrong, they will say, no, you can't.
And we'll let you enter it in wrong.
Well, I'm told by the accountant that they won't, so.
Maybe for certain things.
Yeah.
You can make errors in QuickBooks, that's true.
Yeah.
But you sure can.
Yes, so. I mean,
Well, I'm
we pay professionals to advise us, and as I said, I ask questions, but sometimes I accept their answers and don't challenge their answers, so.
I don't know, I'm comfortable.
And I will tell you this, when this goes to the state reviews it, and like last year, they moved a few things that they said, well, this was in this category. Our new rule is it should be in this category. And there may be an amended that the state will come back to us with, which they did do last year.
Well, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I'm comfortable allowing this to get filed tonight. And
You want to make the motion?
okay,
I know it's already a little behind, so yes.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize
The town
the town
supervisor,
supervisor to
authorize
authorize
Secretary
Sickler,
Churchill.
and Churchill to file the AUD.
2020,
The 2020 AUD with the state,
New York State Controller's Office.
with the New York State Controller's Office, thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Second,
Go ahead.
I'll second.
okay.
You seem like you're right.
And to answer the question, yes, this was due April 1st. I did talk with the state. I told them what we were resolving. The answer I got back from them is as long as it's filed by the end of July, that's when they do the rating of municipality or every state agency, whether they're a fire district, school district. They do a rating of them based on whether it's in, trying to remember the specific terms. Possible fiscal distress, significant fiscal distress, or you're not in it at all. We have not been in it for considerable time. We were in it back in 2014 or 15, I believe. And that was when our fund balance was reduced down to $72,000. And highway was actually over budget and had no fund balance and were $20,000 or $30,000 in debt to the general fund. So where we stand now, just for example, actually, let's vote on the resolution and then I'll explain. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain.
When will
Okay,
it actually be filed? That's my question.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I'm gonna email him tomorrow and say, send him an email authorization to file. So the fund balance right now in general fund at the beginning of the year was 1 million, no. Yes, 1,066,875. At the end of 2020, it is 1,158,651. So we've increased it by about $92,000. Some of that is assigned fund balance and appropriated fund balance. Bear in mind, 180,000 we put toward taxes for this year. But we have unassigned fund balance of $911,180, which is about 25% of our total budget. And that is about where they recommend you be, 3 months worth of bills. So we're right. Someday we should adopt a fund balance policy. This town has never had one. We did talk about it at one time and we still, maybe we should consider it at the organizational meeting next year. That's when we would do it.
Mhm.
And I can certainly present examples. The state won't tell you how much money you can keep. They just make recommendations that you have no less than 3 months availability of funds. So that's general.
The 1,066 was from 219, and the 1,158,000 is from 2020.
Correct. Yep, and then in general, excuse me, that was general. In highway, we are, sorry, a lot of pages to scroll through. Highway fund balance at the start of the year was 423,149. At the end of the year is 575,909. That is all assigned fund balance though, and that is because there is outstanding debt against the highway. So your fund balance is always assigned against debt. There is 0 debt on the general fund side. And there is on the highway side, I'd have to go to the very last page to tell you those numbers. But there's the 2 bands that we had outstanding and the 2 more payments of the trucks. And this is all very detailed in this, and these AUDs, when they file them, are available. You can go on the New York State Comptroller's website and you can look back at the last 15 years worth of AUDs for any agency in the state. Capital projects, that's the one. We were at 23,381. We are now at 128,443. So that's the addition of the 105,000. And apparently we made $62 in interest last year. Our street lighting, even though we gave back a considerable amount of money against the taxes last year, we still, and I think it's because of the fact that we're doing the 10% toward solar. We actually took in more money than we spent. So next year's budget, I'm going to do a significant, the 3 street lighting districts. These are the separate street lighting districts that exist. We'll probably give back a significant portion of that fund balance against, because we've grown from $9,000 fund balance to $11,000 fund balance in that.
Are you looking for the total assigned fund balance for highway?
That's what I stated.
382, no, the total assigned. I thought that was what you were looking for.
Oh, I was reading the total fund balance,
Yeah, I know.
not the assigned.
But the assigned is that what it's 140 and.
Okay, so then some of it is,
382.
so some of it is spendable then. Apologies, I was reading the wrong
No,
one.
but I mean, as far as the outstanding bands.
Debt.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Is it, I'm correct, it's 382 and change.
It's all the way on the back end of it. I can tell you exactly what it is. Well, as of the end of 2020.
There's 140 at one point and 242 at another. One's the assigned unappropriated and one's assigned appropriated. Yes.
So the long-term debt, now the long-term debt obviously includes a lot of other things. That's pension liability. That also is compensated absences. Every year we have to determine how many vacation, sick time people are rolling over. We have to add a dollar value to that and report that, because if they take it, we have to have the money to pay it out. So that is treated as debt. But currently, At the end of the year, our debt is in the highway department, 449,470. We paid off 220,369. So we paid off a third of our debt in 1 year. And that's what I've been aggressively doing is each year we've been paying off we've been paying off 140,000 against the bands and the 80,000 against and that was money that was borrowed because the previous board budgeted for the revenue of chips, but didn't budget for the expenditure. And in order to get chips, you have to spend the money first. So we didn't have it budgeted, even though, so we had to borrow the money when in 2018. And that's why we're in that situation, because it was not properly budgeted previously.
Yeah, that's why the appropriated fund balance,
Yep.
assigned appropriated is 140.
Yep. So, well, the 140 is what we assign every year out of fund balance to pay the band.
Right.
Yeah, and that's our choice. That's what we've been doing, so. Overall, we're in very good financial shape. That's the short answer. We have very little debt to cash on hand.
This is at the end of 2020.
Correct.
Mike, you said you had another resolution to add?
Yes. We have been, courts have been playing catch up and have been scheduling court dates during the day on Wednesdays. Previously, they were always in the evening or they were starting at 4 p.m. We are having trouble staffing court security. We also are having trouble staffing the security that we often had there for the clerks. I've been presented an application for a new constable. If we approve it tonight, the paperwork can be expedited to Albany tomorrow. And with any luck, we could have this person in position on Wednesday.
Has this person been interviewed?
Yeah, well, so if you read through, what we have always done with the constables are more than just an interview.
Oh, okay.
There's a whole, if you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, page 6. That is the checklist of when all their backgrounds, so their driver's license is run and checked. They are checked against a warrant check. They are checked against their residences. They are checked against former employment. And this is all required by the state.
The 3 that were left blank, not required.
No, the fingerprints happens after they are appointed. They're then fingerprinted and they're run through. The other 2 are apparently not mandatory. They can be.
This person's also a corrections officer and he may have fingerprints on file.
Correct. He is a corrections officer in the Ulster County Jail, so he works for the Sheriff's Department. I did confirm that with the Sheriff's Office, there is no worry of conflict of interest. I apologize for the last few pages, the way the prints came out. It was a scan to me. What those are and all that all the originals will all be in the file. It's the person's certificate of birth, which is required by the state. Obviously, every employee is not required to provide those. Being that a law enforcement person goes through a more stringent background check. And so.
And this person primarily would be assigned to court. Is that?
Not necessarily, but the benefit that we would achieve immediately is that we would have 2 court officers, which DCJS, when the door is unlocked, currently the door is still being locked. They're bringing people in 1 case at a time, passing through the metal detector. The door is locked. They're hearing that case. They leave, the next person is called in. We are allowed to operate in those situations with 1 court officer because the locked door becomes our secondary security. Eventually, we will be moving away from that. And even still, the justices, both town justices have said they would prefer 2 court officers in attendance, even with the door locked. We have 7 constables on our staff right now. 3 of them are out from their other jobs on medical issues. One has been deployed several times and is in the, I don't know if it's the National Guard or the Army National Guard. 2, thank you. 2 of them, excuse me. So right there is 5 of our 8, so that leaves us 3. 2 of them have day jobs,
We had 7.
yeah. Okay,
minus 5 is 2.
2.
And there's another gentleman.
There is one that, and I will probably be bringing you, I'm gonna send him a letter. He has worked 3 hours for us in the last 18 months, so
Hmm.
I suspect he is no longer available.
So what I was getting at is, I think there is an issue, and it's that we don't have staffing at the
Correct.
court, and I want to make sure that we're hiring someone who can.
This person is available,
fill
this
those
person
hours, because that's
yes,
the
this
issue
person's
that we're trying to solve.
regular job is evenings. This person will solve the immediate problem.
Part of the problem, Aaron, at the court liaison, Judge Laflamme has taken it upon herself to schedule court cases during the day. Not only is she not able to get constables, but for the ones that she schedules, she's losing more than 1/3 of call-outs because people cannot show up at court during the day as opposed to going to their job. But Judge Laflamme wants to do it that way, and that's the way it's being done. All court in this town has always been held in the evening to accommodate the workers that could, and I believe other people who had the opposite conflict, where they didn't work a 9 to 5 and worked in the evenings, made some other arrangements. But more people in this town work 7 to 3, 8 to 4, whatever. And for whatever reason, like I said, Her Honor has seen fit to change the schedule. She's got, and like I said, she may have 17 people on her agenda, and 5 of them may call out because they're at work and they're not going to leave work.
I'm not certain of the percentages. I will say,
I've asked
yeah,
the constables what the call out rate is.
the operation of the courts is totally in their
I
hands. as-
understand that, but still. as
I'm
a
explaining
town,
for the rest of the board.
We have to know as a board what's going on.
Correct. But we cannot mandate any, the operation of the court lies with the justices. We provide the finances to operate the court. We provide the personnel to operate the court. That's the extent of what our involvement with the court. We provide the facility, excuse me, the facility. So that is our, so if they choose, and I will say both justices have been sometimes doing daytime, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. I've been asked to try to resolve the problem, and this
Right.
appointing this person, we do have several openings available. We had, during the pandemic, we had kind of put a hold. You will see that this application is dated 12/10/2020. It's been sitting holding while we resolved if the court was even operating, when it was operating, how it was operating. It made no sense to hire somebody if we didn't have any job for them.
Right.
I had planned originally, before this was brought to my attention yesterday, to put this person on the August agenda as a potential hire, and I would have gotten you the information sooner. The reason for the urgency is it was brought to my attention yesterday about these issues about court security and safety. And I said to Rich, check and see if there is another application that is also pending, but that we could not get in touch with that gentleman to have him complete the process.
Maybe this Rich talked to him about, if he's still interested.
Oh, this guy?
Yeah.
No, this guy came and filled out all his paperwork today with the town. So it is ready. If we approve this person tonight, when I'm gonna go back to the office, sign everything, and get it so it goes out in the mail first thing tomorrow morning to Albany. Which is why we hope that we'll have a turnaround by Wednesday and then be able to be in there Wednesday.
Mike, I understand that this is a court problem that we're discussing, but and then at the same time, I think the public needs to know that there's only been one traffic control officer going out with traffic that he's now allowed to go out to. And he's having to work both ends of a jammed Cherrytown Road. Now, I don't know how he's managed to be in two places at once, but he's done a heck of a job doing it. And that's due to the camp. And
I am in
tough one there.
several times a day contact with Rich Miller. And I have given the authority Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, when he is alerted of an incident or an issue, to immediately respond. He agrees that just sitting there waiting for a problem is both a waste of time and manpower. So we are responding to, I agree, it's one person, but we have coverage. Whether it's Depot, the camp,
What about his safety? That's my concern.
understood, but I go back to the fact that sheriff cars don't have two people in them, state trooper cars don't have two people in them.
But you can't stop traffic at both ends.
Agreed.
to be safe. That's.
But I'm not sure we need, why we need to use the terminology stopping traffic. We're not stopping traffic.
Or move traffic forward from
Right.
two directions with one person. That's what I'm trying.
Agreed. But we are addressing the problems with response right now. And as someone who has talked to the neighbors on a very regular basis, they are satisfied with the results.
You believe that? Okay.
Well, that's what I'm hearing from them, that when we have the presence, there is it may not be
When there's
100.
a presence, there's less issue, yes. That's very true.
I'm gonna just stop because you seem to want to finish every sentence I say, so I'll just,
Annoying, isn't it?
we have a resolution in a second. Can we do a vote on,
I know,
don't.
we don't.
oh,
You just
okay,
said you hadn't. Had
okay.
So nobody.
I'd ask for a resolution then to appoint Donald, and I believe it's Copen, apologies if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Junior, to constable position at a rate of 13, constable, part-time, provisional, probationary. So the part-time is because it's a as-needed basis. The provisional is because New York State has made these competitive positions, but there is no list for the position. So and the probationary is our own imposed 580-hour probationary. So at a rate of $13 an hour, effective upon receipt of Department of DCJS approval or certification. Certification is the, I guess, the correct word.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second,
I'll second.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. That's all we have on the regular agenda. Just a quick announcement. We did receive, I got email yesterday, the local government records management grant that we applied for ultimately it was February of 2020, but we started working on it. We applied first in 19 and did not get it. We applied again in 2020. And Kate spent a lot of time working on it with me, the code enforcement. Ultimately, this is for a digitization of all the 50 some years worth of building department records that
Can
will be digitized and searchable. Keyword being searchable by any word. Anyway, we got approval yesterday that our word that we were awarded the grant. 61,000 something. We already have a contract with a company. That was how we got the number for what to bid. And it is good until it's either May or June of 2022. So what they did apparently is they didn't award any grants in 2020, and they just must have rolled every application over automatically into 2021. Because we did receive a very small grant from this several years ago for the planning board office. And it's a July through June.
So are we ready to do it?
I emailed the gentleman from the company yesterday. I did not hear back from him today, so I'll get back with him again. What the process is going to be is it's going to be, we're going to, and I have to go back and look, I believe we put in for a temp person to go through our records. What will happen is half our building department records will be cataloged to some degree. We will go through them with Kate's assistance, not physical assistance, but telling us what we must maintain. There's a lot of things in those records that probably do not need to be in there. So we don't want to scan things that we don't need to scan. They will then be packaged up. We will know which records leave our office. As part of our contract, if we need access to those records, we notify the company. And it was either a 24 or a 36-hour turnaround time to get us the information for those records back to us. Because they will go to them for a period of time, and they will return the first set. They will take the second set and
Well, we've got a
do
year.
this.
It's very
It will take a
exciting.
year.
It will take a year.
Yeah, I know.
I
That's
know,
what I
jumped
was
off my
thinking.
couch when I read that email
I know.
yesterday.
I was-
because
I
so
was sitting
excited.
at my computer and my emails sort of, there's a little notification and I saw LG and I was like, oh, is this like for next year's, a notification for an application? Then I looked closer and I was like, we got the grant.
It's so exciting.
Because it's a very highly competitive
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah.
And we met with the gentleman who's actually one of the ones that review it, and we definitely crossed our T's, dotted our I's.
Well, the new,
Sat through training classes,
yeah,
so.
the new regional gentleman,
Yeah.
yeah, the new regional
job,
gentleman
Kate.
used to be,
I was just going, yeah.
yeah,
And this included the white screen
yes.
scanner too, so no moving
Also includes
forward.
Yeah,
purchase
I
of the
know.
scanner so we can continue it in the future. So it's not, because the whole purpose of the grant is they want to give you money one time and not have you come back with the same project a few years later. So Kate and I worked with discovering which scanner would be best for, and she can utilize it as well as that office. And we can scan in our own records. And it's large enough that we can scan in maps.
Mhm.
Well, I would just like to offer my support as a board member, whatever assistance I can, because that, when I saw that deadline I was like, ooh, we better get.
No,
started.
we really, the difference between the first year when we applied, we basically got a lot of feedback, and the
Yeah.
new manager of our former local government management person had retired, and the new person had been a reviewer from Albany. And he met with us and he basically said, these are the sections you really got to knock out of the park, and these are the sections you don't have to worry about so much. And that information was really helpful. And, you have to contract with the company in order to apply for the grant. And it is required to, this company works with the disabled. And because it's state money, you have to, they give preference to companies that work with the disabled and those types of populations. So that was another, the company is based out of Buffalo, unfortunately. There was another company out of Albany, but we would probably not have gotten the grant if we went with the Albany company. So we went with the Buffalo company. And we also got $185,000 first reimbursement of our chips yesterday. It was a very nice day yesterday.
All right,
So.
so,
We didn't have public comment. Did you want to add that?
We don't normally in a special meeting, only in the general meeting. If the board wants to add it, we can. I'm happy either way.
Good idea.
I just have one question.
Board want to
Yes.
add yes, please.
How come we can't use the sheriff department at the courthouse?
The sheriff is not, my knowledge of that is that the sheriffs are not allowed to work within local courts. They are a county officer, not a,
We used to have sheriff here years ago.
it may have, the rules probably changed. It's because they're budgeted for through the county, maybe in past years. The whole situation of court officers has changed considerably. In the old days, and if you can look back in the minutes, there were 4 or 5 people that were assigned as court officers, and many of them were just lay people. And I think the criteria has changed considerably. But the sheriff is not authorized to, no municipality uses the sheriff. They all have their own. Agreed. I wish it was that easy. I really do.
They use someone in Marbletown.
They might be sheriff officers that they contract independently, much as this gentleman is. This gentleman is a sheriff, but he's not working as a sheriff.
We have executive session in there.
We do.
I have a question.
Yes,
Before you guys was talking about constables, that couple were sick off their regular job. They're working for the town of Rochester. Well,
no, they're not sick. I don't want to go into the details of their medical situation, but they're not cleared to work as constables right now because they're out from their other jobs
yeah, that's what I'm-
on medical issues.
but
They are not working for us at that time. And that's why
when you
we,
said it before, it sounded like they were.
no, they're not available right now because of they're basically on a medical leave, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into details of what it is.
Misunderstood it.
Sorry, Charlie. Are you gonna have them patrolling depot? That was packed so bad the other day.
They are patrolling depot on a regular basis.
That was so bad the other day. They were parked in the street, both sides of the road.
Agreed. And unfortunately, unless you have somebody sitting there,
2 years ago, you had your car counters. They need to go back.
yeah. No, we are doing the same thing. It's,
This one car was parked, like 3/4 of her car was out.
yep, and we are going by and attempting to get those people to move. What we did do when we were going to make the whole road no parking, there was a
They
lot.
obviously can't read because this one woman had or man or
Yep.
whatever, 3/4 of her car was parked in the road, and right there next to the front fender was a no parking
Yep.
sign.
And we are, when we discover those, we're asking them first to move their cars, and if they don't, they're being ticketed. And we can call a tow company too, if it goes, to that level.
I mean, it's hot and I understand everybody wants
It's-
to swim, but
it's a frustrating battle. It really is. And unfortunately, when it was just a few cars and a few people, it
was
wasn't
like
an issue.
35 cars the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hot, I understand that, but have a little respect, people.
Exactly. And that's,
It all boils down to one word, respect.
we give them a lot of leeway when if their wheels are off the pavement or even just barely touching the pavement. We allow them in the area where they're allowed to park.
Oh, they're on both sides of the road. I mean, people
Yeah.
learn to read.
Exactly. Yeah.
Parking, I know that.
Yeah.
Parking's right there, get in there.
Yeah.
And I go to the store and somebody's in a fire lane, that drives me nuts. And there's nobody in the car.
Yes. They're just running in for a minute.
Yeah, come out with a shopping cart full.
Okay, my apologies. We have to do a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussion of the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real properties. So,
I'll make that motion.
do I have a second?
I'll second
Have
it.
a good
Okay.
night.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Do you want me to stay?
You
or-
don't need to. Yeah, I'll, the motion will just be to come out. of it.
All right.
Let me stop the, oh, yes, thank you. All in favor?